Hey there, welcome back to my channel. And a question I get asked most is what's more important when applying to a service academy, sports or academics? I will always say academics. Academics will always trump sports. No doubt, sports are important. You have to have sports to get into a service academy, but you also have to have really good grades and really good standardized test scores. The academies are looking for officers to lead men, to lead their services into the future. And that requires a strong academic ability and strong academic performance in high school and also at the service academies. Sports is important because it shows leadership, it shows physical ability, all those things. But academics, in my opinion, and I will walk through a brief review here shortly of the military academy, West Point's class of 2027's profile to prove my point. So just before we get into that, let me just address this one thing. As you all know, my 4 kids all went to service academies. And the statement that I get most from people is, oh my God, they must have been great in sports. No, they were not great in sports. They were good in sports. Yes, they were team captains. Yes, they did multiple seasons. Yes, they did win varsity letters. But no, they were not D1 quality athletes. They were not superstars. They were not Olympic trials, things such as that. But what they were at the top of their class. They did very well in SATs. They were involved in groups such as scouting, Girl Scouts. They were involved in leadership positions in school. They volunteered. They did all the other things besides sports to round out their resume for applying to a service academy. Now, that's not why they did all those things. They did a lot of those things because they liked to, but they actually did the best in academics because they had a goal, and the goal was to get into a service academy. So let's just break right here. We're going to go inside. I'm going to get on the computer, and I'm going to walk you through the West Point class of 2027 class profile, and hopefully you see my point as we walk through that. Okay, so let's look at this sheet here. It's from West Point. It's the class profile for the class of 2027. I am not going to put a link to this below. You guys can go online and hit the highlight here. You guys can go online and just put this in a Google search, USMA class profile, class of 2027, to take you to the West Point site, and you can pull this sheet up. And if you just put in USMA class profile, you get a lot of the other profiles for the other years. But I'm working with this one, 2027. So we're right here in 2024. So this is a couple of years from now, but I think it's very representative of what the West Point and the other academies look like. So we're just going to discuss West Point for today. So if you are familiar with graphic arts or presentations, you will appreciate what I have to say next. The way things are put on a sheet, put on a slide, put on the screen, it's all for a reason. The orientation, where the boxes are, what's where and everything, it's all done for a reason to convey information. And I believe that the way that this laid out and the information here supports my argument that academics is more important than athletics. Now, don't get me wrong, athletics are very important. Without athletics, you cannot get into a service academy, but you need really good academics to get in with those athletics. So academics come first, athletics come next. So let's just look at the way this page is laid out. So as I said, you get the basic information, how many applications were filed, that's 11,000. How many were admitted at 11,000? That's 1,250. We can discuss this later, nominations and all that, but, it's typical year. Demographics, we won't go into that now, but I think this does warrant some look by you guys just to look at it and get an idea of who's getting in and who's not getting in. This is always interesting. This tells you, who we're trying to maintain relationships with and, who we're reaching out to do exchange programs, to have their students come to the States and go to the service academy. So just an interesting little thing here. Um, as you see, we have activities here, and we have all of this. All of this is academics. And down here, we have athletics. We have varsity athletes, letter winners, obviously varsity letter winners, and team captains. So here is all that is addressed about athletics, and here is everything that is addressed about academics. So yes, so let's just go erase some of this so we can read it here easily. Um, so yes, varsity athletes, there's 1,239 varsity athletes out of a class of 1,255. So yes, everybody was a varsity athlete. Just about everybody in the class was. I would argue that the 11 or so who were not varsity athletes were some type of team athletes, such as maybe they were fencers or people that shot on teams or jujitsu or something like that, that they really didn't fall into the varsity category. Here we have varsity letter winners, 1,060 out of the 1,255. So yes, just about everybody was a varsity letter winner. We don't know if there are multiple varsity letter winners or they just lettered in one sport. We don't have a breakdown of information. And yes, half the class, 783 out of 1,255. In my easy math, that's about half the class were team captains. Actually, it's more than half the class, but you guys can pull up the calculator on your phones there and do that number exactly. So let's just clear some of this here so we can look at this a little bit easier. So as I said, you see this little spot here was addressing athletics, and all of this is academics. So, we have, your valedictorians, your salutarians, the people that are really, really in the top of the class. It's about 100 out of that. So that's usually pretty normal. Not everybody can be the valedictorian of their high school class. National Honor Society, once again, almost more than half the class were in National Honor Society. So that's a pretty high academic bar to become National Honor Society. The top 10% of the class was 40%. So 40% of the people that got in of the 1,255 were in the top 10% of the class. 63% were in the top 20% of the class. Now, why not a 100%? Well, if you look over here, we have people like foreign nationals. We have, prior service. Let's look at some of these people that went to the prep school. You start looking at these numbers here and you say, okay, well, let's just look at this. So prior service, 9%, 10%, 10 and 14 is 24%. Well, you can kind of see, that these people probably are not in this number because obviously, they were not in high school right before they came. So it's my assumption that they were not counted in this number. So I would say that a majority of the class that just came out of high school were in the top 20% of the class. 40% that just came out of high school were in the top 10% of the class. So academically, you got to be right in here. Of course, we have these guys right here in top 5%. That's a pretty big number, but you got to be in the top of your class, however it's rated. Okay, so now let's look at the standardized test scores. We'll start here with the SATs. The composite average was 1311 out of 1600, and the math was 661 out of 800, and the reading is 650 out of 800. So very high scores right there in the SATs. For the ACTs, they did equally as well, 29, the composite average. The reading average was 31, and the math, English, and science averages were 28 and 29. All very respectable scores. So these students on whole did very well. So I will once again make the argument that you need high grades and class standing to get into a service academy. But this is not all. You also need to be here. You need to be an athlete. So this, I believe, is number one. And this is number 2 to get in. So agree or disagree, here's the numbers, here's what it shows. These guys did very well. These guys and gals did very well. But with that, they were also high school athletes. And I mean, it shows it right here. So, I mean, these class profiles are available online. I strongly suggest that you go and you look at them and you see where you are compared to these profiles. All right. Thank you for taking the time to walk through the class of 2027 West Point, their class profile. I hope you found it useful. I strongly suggest that if you are applying to any of the service academies, you go online, you download their class profiles, and you do a rack and stack and see how you stand up against the latest class to be admitted to the school. Specifically, look at the SATs, the ACTs, and the other demographic information that's there that you can use to compare yourself. So thanks again, and stay tuned for the next video. Bye now.